In 3.1, we were introduced to something entirely new. A bigger, more dangerous class of enemies that stand in our way of defeating the Hollows. The Enchainers, demigod-like beings that control the Hollows and warp the laws around them to their will. But luckily enough, they are not immortal, and the heroes of the past have given the present-day Void Hunters a gift in the form of Void Hunter weapons. And Tailless, the Qingming Blade, Thaumiel, and others we have yet to see all possess a Karma Core, the extracted core of an Enchainer fused with Porcelain and placed into a weapon. But before doing this, there was another project that I want to talk to you about today. Because to master the Hollows and to truly defeat the Void from consuming the world as we know it, we must first learn to take them over. Because what if I told you that Project Sunseeker can return, and the ambitious hubris of humanity can in fact lead us to victory, as long as we choose the right person. Because I believe that the perfect subject to possess a Karma Core and ascend to become an Enchainer is none other than our Shifu Yixuan. And I will tell you exactly why. Because this is the perfect Enchainer of the Hollows revealed. Okay, so before I launch into why Yixuan is the perfect ideal Enchainer to have perfect control over a Karma Core, we gotta understand the Hollows and why Project Sunseeker failed.
To leave your partner like this, you were never much of a dancer.
I didn't try that hard. Trust me.
Well, each Great Hollow possesses a ruler, or an Enchainer that has a Karma Core, and when killed, the Karma Core can be extracted. And due to the Karma Cores being a direct creation of the creator, they are what is quite possibly the most ether-reactive objects in the entire world. So touching one directly most likely leads to instant corruption. So what the first generation Void Hunters did was seal them using Porcelain, a new ether-stabilizing substance at the time that Sunbringer investigated herself. And they used this metallic miracle element to seal the Karma Cores for two reasons. One, to make them safer for handling, and two, to perform the experiment that links ZENLESS Zone Zero to the rest of the Hoyo-verse. Project Mantis. I mean Sunseeker. I say this because in Honkai Impact 3rd, Honkai energy is basically ether and Void Hunters are called Flame Chasers. And these heroes who fought against the massive Honkai beasts, aka Ethereals, that were on the verge of destroying the earth, took their best and brightest and underwent a surgery in the name of desperation. An operation that would fuse a person with the beast they were fighting for a massive combat boost, giving the patient demigod-like abilities ranging from immortality to telepathy, telekinesis, and just about any other psychic ability you can think of, depending on what Honkai beast the person was fused with, which eventually extended into Project Chimera that meant fusing a person with multiple Honkai beasts, with even greater highs and even lower lows, with the cost being that many people died and did not survive this surgery. And the stronger the beast, the higher the mortality rate, with the 13 we know today being the success stories that still lost in the end. But at the very least, you understand the similarities between this and Project Sunseeker. It is humanity's hubris, but more desperation than anything else. But unlike Dr. May's indifference to the casualties in the name of the greater good, it seems that Professor Arke and Sunbringer stopped trying after the death of Colonel Vike, with Sunbringer, for one reason or another, splitting her Karma Core into 3 and giving each fragment to her fragments. But even though this project stops and seemed to have shut down, from what we can see, humanity has not given up on trying to create something or someone that could master the Hollows, resulting in the creation of Anby and Soldier 11, clone super soldiers with bodies especially resistant to ether corruption, that specialize in fighting in the Hollows with the densest ether, with Anby being the biggest success story, possessing the highest ether aptitude out of all of the clones. And you know well enough already that ether aptitude can be directly correlated to strength because, well, the more ether you can withstand, the more you can use and the longer you can stay in Hollows to fight, which is also why you will notice that intelligent constructs and Thyrans make up the majority of the Void Hunters. In fact, Beliora Vike is the only known combatant that has ever become a Void Hunter that was a human. But she ended up dying due to ether corruption, with her Thyran friend Remiel surviving. There is no coincidence there. Yes, Joyous seems to be human, but Remiel tells us herself that he wasn't much of a fighter.
The proxies I've known, well, there haven't been many. But among them, the only ones capable of entering a hollow and fighting in person are you and Joyous. It's not such a stretch. If you ask me, his combat skills may actually be worse than yours. He's your complete opposite. Always convinced he can handle anything. Yet the moment a real fight begins, he's the first one flat on the ground.
And Arky is a professor, so odds are he didn't fight either, but we really have no idea what he is anyway. So you can see that Void Hunters who fight in hollows are all Thyrans and intelligent constructs, and Remiel survived her fusion with her Karma Core, most likely also due to her ether-resistant biology. And I say all of this to really drive home the point that ether aptitude is everything. So if only we had someone with a complete mastery over ether to the point of being near impossible to corrupt. If only we had a Shifu, a master who had such a high level knowledge over ether manipulation that she could condense and disperse it at will, even going so far as to create her own substance with it to fight with. Oh yeah, we do. Humanity's secret weapon, Yixuan, who quite ironically enough is a human who spits in the face of every established rule of how ether corruption works. Let me explain. You see, what Yixuan does is simple but complicated. She controls ether. And by that, I mean she controls the ether in the air, in the water, in the ethereals, and other people, and most importantly, inside herself. In fact, she seems to have the highest proficiency in controlling it within her own body. Because if someone or multiple people are being corrupted, she can take all of that corruption into her own body and disperse it into the air, minimizing its density in the process. But that's not all she can do, because her auric ink is just her own personal brand of Lemnian hollow miasma. She can control the state of ether, changing it into solid, liquid, or gas form at will. There is a reason why Yixuan is an ether type character, because the elements characters use are the ones they are actually using in lore, with their weapons explaining the technology behind it. So Yixuan is using her own brand of ether without a weapon, because she is the weapon. She can weaponize the ether that naturally occurs in the air, even outside of hollows. And what makes Yixuan even more broken is that theoretically, she could stay in hollows for an indefinite amount of time and never corrupt, because she can always simply manage the ether within her own body to be within her own natural tolerance. Therefore, it doesn't really matter how high her ether aptitude is, because she regulates the ether within her body to manageable levels. The only reason why she couldn't use the Qingming Blade is because its side effect of consuming memories and senses is a direct counter to her. She needs to remember her abilities and have a clear mind in order to carefully perform her ether manipulation. So if she forgets her own tolerance levels or can't feel it within herself how high her ether corruption is in order to control it, she dies. But that is a Qingming Blade exclusive drawback. The only concern would be whatever unique aspect the Karma Core brings into her life, because whatever core Remiel got gave her temporal lumen flux, the ability to use feathers to trap things in a sort of time lock or stasis. But it is also the reason why she was trapped in a state of suspended animation for 100 years. So in terms of Yixuan, that unknown aspect of the Karma Core would be the greatest danger to her. The drawback of Tailless is the consummation of strength and sanity, eventually turning the wielder into a homicidal maniac. The drawback of the Qingming Blade is of course the memory and sensory loss, and for Thaumiel the drawback is ether imbalance and mental degradation. So as long as the Karma Core Yixuan gets does something involving ether imbalance, she has the highest chance out of anyone else alive to be able to contend with it and root out the issue, creating a reality where humanity gets an Enchainer. And for the cherry on top, I feel like everything she has been through has been training her and preparing her for this reality. Because in her duel with Mevarok, she gained an even greater mental clarity in understanding her sister's sacrifice. And due to this, she reached a new level that broke past her previous limits. The one drawback of her ether manipulation and taking it into her body to then disperse it is that it messes with her head and throws her trauma in her face.
I absorb the ether into my body with that technique, so there are some side effects. Ever since I got hit by the miasma, those cold fragments of my memory, they won't stop coming back.
But due to this newly acquired inner peace, there is nothing holding her back anymore. She was even able to save Yixuan and fight the ethereal monster copy of her sister without succumbing to her emotions, showing how much she's grown. Her past can't hurt her anymore. She is on a level no one else is. She is entirely Void Hunter level without a Void Hunter weapon. So if I were to give my most honest opinion, the writing is on the wall. So to bring this all back to a head, Yixuan is the perfect subject for Project Sunseeker. If there is anyone who has a skill set fit for having a karma core fused with porcelain and implanted into their body, it's Yixuan. And this would make her the ZENLESS Zone Zero equivalent of a Hersher. Because yeah, Hersher cores are just karma cores and Enchainers are just Hersher. So in essence, ZENLESS Zone Zero has the chance of doing the funniest thing right now. Something that I think we are more than likely heading towards in the future. Because we know someone is getting a karma core and fully mastering it, and that will be the next step up in the power scaling model of New Eridu, which would fully establish the world of ZENLESS in the Hoyo verse. As if having Elysia main Kiana wasn't clear enough. And this all begins with Yixuan, the Void Hunter who isn't a Void Hunter that is somehow human with the highest ether aptitude purely because of her genius and mastery over ether. Because this is the perfect Enchainer of the Hollows revealed. You guys really liked my recap of the 3.1 story, and I promised to make more ZENLESS videos, so here is me making good on my promise. To be honest, I still have more theories to present, mainly involving Sir Pico and Truvia and Tops and the syndicate of Team Icarus that may or may not be colluding with the Ethereals involving yokai. So if you enjoy hearing my ambitions and hubris-driven rants about this game, you know what to do to let me know. Join me in my journey to 100,000 subscribers and flying to the highest of heights, one theory at a time. But trust me, these wings are not made of wax. These wings were crafted by the love and support that you guys gave me. And I'm taking you all along for the ride. What do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, y'all.